Welcome to the latest deep dive at baffledbyscience.com. Today we're digging into a recent report by the CO2 Coalition that focuses on climate change in the state of Arkansas in the US. It's called Arkansas and Climate Change: No Warming, No Crisis, No Problem. Our mission is really to unpack the data presented, help you understand what this report indicates is happening, and, well, what it finds does challenge some common narratives about climate change in the state and possibly globally.
Exactly. It's a chance to look at different perspectives, especially when official data, like what's cited here, might seem to contradict maybe more widely held beliefs. We're kind of looking for those aha moments in the detail.
Okay, so let's get into it. The report makes a really striking claim right off the bat. It says Arkansas has seen virtually no warming over the last century or so. It even points to the US Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, noting no warming in the state for the last 50 to 100 years based on the USHCN data.
Right, the US Historical Climatology Network. That's the official record of long-term trends. And yes, that does stand in contrast to general global trends. Even other summaries, like the Arkansas State Climate Summary, mentioned a small rise, maybe 0.5 degree Fahrenheit or 0.25 degree centigrade. That's much less change than you'd typically see between, say, 10 a.m. and noon on any given day. Pretty negligible.
So why the difference according to this report?
Well, it suggests things like the urban heat island effect makes cities warmer, particularly at night. And it also mentions data adjustments in modern records that artificially exaggerate modern warming, effectively cooling the past.
Yes, an interesting perspective. So nighttime lows have gone up modestly, about 1 degree Fahrenheit or 0.5 degree centigrade.
Yes, which the report notes can actually be beneficial, extending the frost-free season. But the average maximum temps, daytime highs, have actually declined.
That's right, down by more than 1 degree Fahrenheit or 0.5 degree centigrade since 1900, and confirming that the report highlights US heatwaves actually peaked nationally back in the 1930s. For Arkansas specifically, the percentage of days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit or about 32 degrees centigrade has been declining long term.
Declining? Okay, that counters the increasing heatwave narrative we often hear. So, moving beyond temperature, what about droughts? Another big worry.
On droughts, the data presented here shows no discernible trend towards increasing severity in Arkansas, going back to 1895. And interestingly, annual rainfall has actually seen a modest increase overall.
Okay, so less drought concern, maybe more rain. What about tornadoes, often linked to climate change concerns?
Well, for strong tornadoes, the frequency hasn't gone up. It might have even decreased a bit. And importantly, injuries and deaths from them haven't increased either.
All right, and wildfires. We hear so much about increasing wildfire risk.
Here again, the report finds the opposite for Arkansas. Both the actual area burned and the number of fires show significant declines since around 1935.
Declines. Why would that be?
The report suggests it's linked to fewer droughts, more precipitation, and also something called the CO2 fertilization effect. Basically, more CO2 helps plants grow by retaining moisture, which can act as a bit of a fire retardant.
That brings us to CO2 itself. The report calls it a miracle molecule for plants, not just a warming gas.
Yeah, it talks about NASA data showing the planet is greening.
And NASA attributes about 70% of that greening to increased CO2. In Arkansas, this apparently shows up as more leaf area and nearly a 14% increase in wooded area since the 70s. Thriving ecosystems, it suggests.
Indeed, but how does that connect to farming? Agriculture is huge for Arkansas.
Right, the report points out global food production is hitting record highs. And in Arkansas, key crops like rice, the state's #1 for rice in the US, right? So rice, corn, soybeans, wheat, they've all seen big yield increases. The report actually tries to quantify the CO2 effect, suggesting it boosted wheat yields by something like 140%.
Wow.
Plus, the growing season itself is longer, over 2 weeks longer than in 1900. That helps too. It also puts current CO2 levels around 430 parts per million, in historical context, showing that's actually near historic lows for Earth's long history, pointing out that plants evolved with and even benefit from more CO2.
So, given all that, let's look at policy. What impact would cutting Arkansas's CO2 emissions have? Well, according to this report's conclusion, it is pretty stark. It calculates that completely eliminating all of Arkansas's emissions would prevent an unmeasurably small amount of future warming, just 0.0023 degrees Fahrenheit by the year 2100. Tiny, a rounding error.
Okay, so the core message from this specific report seems quite clear. It finds no climate crisis in Arkansas. Instead, it argues the state's ecosystems are doing well, even thriving.
And that its people are actually benefiting from the rise in atmospheric CO2, particularly in agriculture.
It definitely presents a very different picture than you might expect. So maybe the final thought for you listening is, does this kind of regional finding challenge your broader assumptions about climate change impacts? And, should we perhaps reevaluate the cost-benefit analysis of some climate policies, especially considering the role CO2 plays in, greening the planet and boosting food production, as this report suggests?
Great questions. This wraps it up for now. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Please visit baffledbyscience.com to keep up to date with the latest discussions on climate change and renewable energy policy.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay informed. If you found this discussion interesting, please subscribe, comment, and share. Until next time.